I guess to really understand what it means to study French in New Orleans for me, I first have to give some background on who I am. I hail from Lafayette, Louisiana, the heart of Cajun country, where the street signs downtown are in French. On a typical weeknight, we eat crawfish etouffee for dinner. Most often, the etouffee was cooked using my great-grandmother's recipe. My great-grandmother, like the rest of my great-grandparents and grandparents, and every one of the older generations, spoke French as much as she spoke English, if not more. For the kids, some of her language made its way into our mouths before we could even realize we were speaking French and not English. When we saw something adorable, we said cher. We called our grandmothers maman and our godfathers parents. Throughout all the branches of the family, our names revealed how deep our Acadian roots ran. We were the Ledets, the Sauniers, the Jolivettes, the Broussards. French followed me from the home school, where I was required to take French classes starting in 4th grade. I later attended our parish's French immersion school, and though I wasn't enrolled in this French immersion program, I still attended a daily French class. And when I walked the halls of the French building, the language floated out of all the classes: science, civics, math. As I got to high school, Louisiana's core curriculum required me to continue my foreign language studies. I stuck with French because it was most familiar to me, even though I wasn't super passionate about it. Throughout my childhood, my family took frequent trips to New Orleans, and this is where I chose to have my Sweet 16. I decided then that one day I would live here. The city felt more like home to me than even Lafayette did. The year I turned 16 was also the year I moved away from home to attend boarding school in Natchitoches. Though it was only a few hours north, the culture was completely different. Different was what I wanted, though, and I decided to explore and branch out in my studies. I dropped French in favor of Latin, which I took my remaining 2 years of high school. As my high school days were coming to a close, I felt New Orleans calling to me again. I decided that I would go to Tulane for college. Coming to New Orleans was like coming back home. I could finally get some decent crawfish again, and all the street signs, like in Lafayette, were in French. It was here at Tulane that I took a study abroad trip to Senegal for a class that focused on its similarities to New Orleans. Both Senegal and New Orleans were significant locations for the transatlantic slave trade, and both still bear the marks of French influence hundreds of years later. The official language of Senegal is French. However, one of the moments that sticks out most to me from my trip is one man's refusal to speak French, which he saw as the language of his country's oppressors. New Orleans was a major trading post due to its prime location on the coast. At the height of the slave trade, the French had a virtual monopoly over trade in New Orleans. Most of the slaves imported at that time came from Senegal. These people were also my ancestors, and French was not their language, but that of their oppressors. They later came to bear some of the same names I listed before, but this was not by choice. Studying French in New Orleans forced me to come to terms with two sides of my identity that seemingly clash. It forces me to think of the power language has to bring people together as well as to tear them apart.